Call the meeting to order.
Williams,
Yes.
Nichols, Miller,
Yes.
Lesh,
Yes.
Botts,
Yes. First is approval of minutes of the September 22nd study session.
Move approval.
Second.
Williams,
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Miller,
Yes.
Lesh,
Yes.
Botts,
Yes. And then the regular meeting minutes of September 22nd.
Move approval. Second.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Lesh,
Yes.
Botts,
Yes. First, we have a resolution, bill number 2014-64, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute contract documents with Capital Railroad Contracting for the Mexico Industrial Rail Spur Maintenance. Up for reading and passage. Bruce?
Yes, we had to do some work on the rail spur to cover the details and the bids received. I'll turn to Russell Runge.
Apparently you get 3 minutes, Russell.
I think your 3 minutes are up.
I'll speak fast. The railroad needs regular improvements, and we're just trying to catch back up on some of those improvements that are necessary. As you guys recall, we had some emergency work that needed to be done to it because we did have a derailment that took place on there. But this resolution was in place to replace some ties. We submitted to 4 different companies and advertised in the Mexico Ledger. We budgeted $15,000 for the rail spur maintenance, and we received 2 bids. Capital Railroad Contracting submitted the lowest bid at a cost of $10,500, and we suggest and recommend that the council proceed with the reading and passage of this resolution.
Have we dealt with this company before at all?
Yes, they have done work in Mexico before.
Satisfactory?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I move for a reading of bill number 2014-64. Second.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Lesh,
Yes.
Botts,
Yes. Next up is an ordinance.
I need to read it. I'll read it.
Sorry.
Bill number 2014-64, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute contract documents with Capital Railroad Contracting for the Mexico Industrial Rail Spur Maintenance. Whereas bids made pursuant to the invitation to bid on the Mexico Industrial Rail Spur Maintenance were opened on September 25th, 2014, and whereas it was determined that the bid, Capital Railroad Contracting of Columbia, Missouri, was the lowest and best bid submitted for the project. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the City of Mexico, Missouri accepts the bid of $10,500 from Capital Railroad Contracting for the Mexico Industrial Rail Spur Maintenance. Section 2, the contract approved herein is subject to RSMO 295675, requiring the contractor to utilize employees on site with the 10-hour OSHA construction safety training. Section 3, the city manager is hereby authorized to execute on behalf of the City of Mexico, Missouri, contract documents with Capital Railroad Contracting of Columbia, Missouri. Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. Move for passage of bill number 2014-64.
Second.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Lesh,
Yes.
Botts,
Yes. Now. Next up is an ordinance for 2 readings by title only and passage. It's bill number 2014-65, an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Code of the City of Mexico, Missouri Health. For 2 readings by title only and passage. Bruce?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I think it's maybe helpful if I give just a little history here, is that The city was actually part of a cooperative agreement, which was originally called the City-County Public Health Unit. And as a member of that, prior to the new Audrain Public Health Department, they, meaning the health unit, did inspections for us under the city's health ordinance, meaning restaurant inspections and those kinds of things. When they become the public health under their own domain, they begin to enforce the state regulations. And then their authority was able to go countywide when that happened. And so our health ordinance, Chapter 5, wasn't as important to have because they went under the state guidelines. Now, what we're moving forward with is that the health department now certainly operates as an independent health department. They currently enforce the Missouri Food Code for food establishments, and we're at the point that it's time to do some updating on the health code and adopting the department's current state code. And that's kind of where it brings us to today. This proposed ordinance, which is brought to us by the Audrain County Health Department Board of Health, has been approved and adopted by Audrain County Commission. The code includes chapters and sections that coincide with most of the current FDA food code and the current state of Missouri food code for food establishments, and this relates back to inspections and so on. We do have some sections that will be specific to Audrain County. And Audrain County will utilize and implement and enforce the current FDA food code and the state Missouri food code for these establishments, unless those sections that we'll talk a little bit about that we have written, but basically that'll be just a little more stringent, or in some cases, that is the way we've been doing business anyway. So, this ordinance will cover and apply to all incorporated and non-incorporated areas of the county. Now, doing a little bit of research, it appears most of Chapter 5 that we had originally, looks like most of it was done and adopted back in 1969. So as you can look, there's been a number of changes in how food is prepared and handled and so on by restaurants since that time. So it is important that we do update and follow. Now, on top of that, the health department did hold some meetings with the establishments and talked to a number of them. Randy Senior is here from the health department. He can.
I'm the environmental public health specialist.
Randy, you want to come on to the podium and speak, please?
We've had two forums for food establishments, and we went through the process of the new ordinance, and we also had two open forums for the public, one in Mexico and one in Vandalia. It was open, anyone could come, ask questions, concerns. The food establishments came in, we did adjust it a little bit. So we made some changes, and we're open to changes if there's a good reason for it. So to that point, we did have two open forums, and right now we're stepping out and we're trying to get with the incorporated cities and try to encourage them to adopt this and approve it, so it'll be a blanket ordinance for the whole county where everyone is accepting it, everyone has it, everyone knows what it is, they have copies of it, and we're going to follow the guidelines throughout the whole county. There's a couple, one thing that's a major change that we're kind of going back to the way things were is the fact that some of the Mexico establishments and other county establishments are only being inspected once a year compared to when the city of Mexico had theirs, we were doing everything every 6 months. So there'll be more inspections. Another thing that we'll require is that all the food establishments post their inspection with their score on it. So when you walk into an establishment, you can see what their last date they were inspected and the last score they got. So those are a couple major improvements. And I would like to mention too, that usually what happens if you look at other counties, the first thing they do is they start tacking service charges onto their ordinance and charging for all these services. We have diligently worked so we don't have to charge restaurants. At this point in time, there's no fees for any inspections, any permitting, anything to do with food. We're not charging anything at this time, so it wasn't an ordinance to pass an ordinance so we could ask for money. It's an ordinance so we can just improve the health and take the monies that we have and spread it out and try to keep the food establishments as safe as we possibly can with what we already have.
Now, what we have included in your council packet is the full wording and verbiage as the county, I think they call it County Ordinance 14-1 or whatever.
Audrain County Ordinance 14-1, Audrain County Food Code is the title.
Now, here's where the change comes in, council. We're not going to ask you to pass this tonight. We're going to make a change and bring it back to you. We want you to look at this, read it, ask any questions that you have. Talking with the city attorney this afternoon, we felt that the best way to adopt this is simple ordinance which says we're just going to repeal Chapter 5, and we will adopt this ordinance 14-1 as listed there, that he said, as our code, and that would be the similar way that we do with the property maintenance code and the building codes and so on, and that way it's not totally written out within our code, it's just adopted by reference. So, and that's the way the ordinance will be written instead of the way we have it here tonight, but we thought it was important you see the full verbiage in case you had any questions.
Randy, I guess it's open for question. Randy, I guess I was privileged to go on an audit with you a few years ago, and I really appreciated being able to see what you look at in a restaurant. And at the time, I felt I could tell people that, you know, our food is safe in Mexico. And, you know, of course, I'm sure anywhere else that you might go. But what teeth are associated with that if a restaurant owner says, you know, I'm going to do it the way I've always done it, and you found that, well, there's some possibility of contamination or something in the restaurant? What do you do then?
Well, depending on what it is and the severity, there's a process we go through, and we've done it before. You know, if it's something that will directly affect the public, they have to cooperate. They don't have a choice. If there's adulterated food, misbranded, mislabeled, things of that nature, they have to comply. If we find something that's spoiled, I mean, it has to be thrown away. They don't have a choice when it comes to things like that. So I'm not sure if you're asking me if it comes down to a point of closure or if it's just something specific.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is there something in here that gives you the authority to do that?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
What this does, it would make the process much faster than, say, having to go through the state. Now, and again, the city has worked with us in the past if we've had a troubled spot, a troubled establishment. They've worked with us in the past, but I don't think it's ever really been in writing like it is now. If we suspend the food license of an establishment, the city can suspend the business license as well, so they're not able to operate. In this, we also have it where we can turn it over to the prosecuting attorney, and there are misdemeanors and fines and things of that nature. So it does take it a step further where if there is a problem and we need to turn it over, take it a step further, we can do that. We don't have to depend on the state that could take weeks or months. We can do it in a few days if we have to, immediately if we have to. If we have to take action, we can do it immediately.
In the past, and I don't want to seem like I'm grilling you here, but in the
that's okay.
past,
Go
there's
ahead.
been some situations, and you and I have had some discussions about this before, about making it difficult for new restaurants to start up, and I think that you guys kind of go out of your way to help them get started, to tell them about things they can do to get their business open and how to prepare food, and even teach them the proper
Yes.
things to do, so.
We do offer training to, if an establishment will call me up and say, can you come in, as long as we have the time, and we don't have other things going on, I'll find some time somewhere to come in and talk to them. Yes, we do offer that at this time still, at no cost. As far as the new establishments, the state actually, last September 1st, they updated their code, and there's actually an application process that the state has never had that the counties can use. We do have that, and we do use it, and I can tell you that the last couple of restaurants that opened use that application system. They fill the application out, then they come see me, and we sit down and make sure the application's filled out all right. And we go through and we look at the design and the layout. In my office, we can look at that, whatever it is they have, and I can make recommendations or suggestions. If they don't have something, or ask, I don't see a service sink here, where are you going to put your service sink? And then they say, well, I didn't know I needed that. So, well, that has to be on the drawing of your establishment. It has to be there before you can even start. Of course, they still go through the city. The city's the main ones for the building permits, but we help them not design, but we help with making sure they have what they need before they get started. Things like asking for a menu. What is it that you're going to be preparing? I don't want to walk in and they say, we started out with sandwiches, and then next time you go in, they've got a grill in the back, and they're grilling steak, and there's no hood, and things like that, and it's happened in the past. Things like that have happened, so we kind of make it clear, and if you're going to make a change, and it's a major change, you need to let us know, and we'll still work with you to try to get you what you need, so.
I guess the main thing, this doesn't change your ability to help them get started. I guess that's the real
Absolutely not.
question.
If nothing else, we've changed, we've taken the state's application and we've made it our own. And the same thing with the inspection sheets that we use. We have already designed our own inspection sheet using the model from the state. We took some things out that we never check, and we've added things in, so like sanitizer. It's on our form now, where before it wasn't. It was the HACCP plan, which no one in the county, I check a HACCP plan. So we've taken things and we've used them to fit our county and the things we do and the things we need. So yeah, we're trying to make it streamlined as possible, but at the same time, not taking shortcuts. We've taken some wording in the Missouri Code that's generic, and we've made it specific to fit our needs, things that we do that other counties may not see or even have.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Randy, you said that they were going to be required to post their scores from the last inspection. Are you going to have a particular area? I mean, we know it could be posted, behind a...
Right, the verbiage is in there, and it says that it has to be, without going and looking it up, it has to be in an accessible...
readily available
Yes.
to...
Yeah, it may say around the register area. 9-101.04, food establishments shall physically post a food establishment inspection report form with applicable score visible to the consumer in the food establishment and readily available for review by the regulatory authority at all times. Area posting may include around the cash register, at the entrance of the food establishment, waiting areas for customers, or other areas deemed appropriate. This must remain posted until the rating is changed through official Audrain County Health Department food establishment inspection. Failure to post or maintain the food establishment inspection record form with applicable score as designated herein shall constitute failure to comply and may be subject to penalties and deemed necessary as identified herein. So that's verbatim from the ordinance.
Clear enough. All right.
Well, while we're on Chapter 9,
Okay.
looking at 101.02, the scoring system, and it says a food establishment inspection score of less than 87 shall require an automatic and complete reinspection from the regulatory authority with a rescore assigned. Is there a time prescribed for that, like within 48 hours, 72 hours, 10 days?
Well, that's a good question. One of the things that is on the inspection form is priority violations, which they're the major ones, have to be corrected in 72 hours. And that is on the form itself, the inspection form. Other things, if you go in and there's torn seat cushions, I'm not going to say, you have 72 hours to replace the seat cushion. Sure. But there has to be a reasonable time, 30 days or 60 days for minor things such as a seat cushion. But then non-food contact, areas that may cross-contaminate, I would say as soon as possible. So some things they can correct while I'm there. Things that can't be corrected, if they're priority, they have 72 hours and that's written law. Other things, we just apply a week, 2 weeks. If they're getting a score that low, I'll be back soon. I'll be back 72 hours and reevaluate what they've got to get that score back up, and we may have to do more inspections after that to get them in compliance with what they need.
And that low score has to be posted, right?
Yes. That one, when they receive that lower score and they post that, if I'm back in 72 hours and do a full inspection, then they can repost the new inspection. But let's say an establishment gets a 99, and I have had to go in and do a follow-up even with a 1 point violation. They wouldn't post because I would just do a follow-up and not a full re-inspection. They're not getting a full inspection, so they won't be able to repost. If they fix it, it would technically be 100, but I'm not doing a full inspection. I'm just looking at that one particular thing.
But there is authority somewhere in here for you to give them 72 hours and...
Well, one thing is it's on the inspection form. So that is legal authority right there that says anything that's a priority. And if you look in the code book, there's priority and then there's core violations. The core violations would be like a torn seat cushion or the floor was dirty, something of that nature. The other would be, there's several things that could be a priority. If they had a refrigerator that wasn't working, they spoil meat, well, we get rid of that. But there are other priorities that we could actually be back the next day to check. But they have to be, according to the form itself, they have to be corrected in 72 hours. No hot water is a good example.
Yeah.
We would want them to get that fixed sooner than 72 hours, but it gives them 72 hours to get that fixed. But
I've seen you on inspections. I know you do a great job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Very appreciative of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Will those scores be still continue to be posted in the newspaper?
Absolutely. All the media that gets them down, that will continue. And I'm going to try to even spread it further if we can through like Facebook, on our Facebook and things like that. We're going to try to use all the media that we can to do that.
Thank you.
I had one thing. I actually was on the committee that was from the food establishments, and everybody he had places like us, but we also had diners, smaller individual places. And there was no, after we got done with the meeting, there was no opposition to what was proposed here from any of us on the board, so.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to say that if there's any questions, the public or the council or anyone can call us 581-1332. That's Audrain County Public Health. And just ask for Randy or Kevin and say it's about the food ordinance. We'll be glad to try to answer any questions that we can. So that's open to the public, the council, everybody. Anybody who would like to ask a question will be available for it.
Okay, thank you, Randy.
Anything else?
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Appreciate your time very, very much. Thank you for the comments. Thank you.
All right, then it's my understanding we're not taking any action on this. So we will move on to appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor. We have Scott Measlin, which is a board member for reappointment. He has indicated that he would like to continue to serve. So these are based on my recommendation to you, council. So I would recommend that Scott be reappointed for a 5-year term that would expire in 2019. We do have currently 2 openings on the board and unexpired terms. And Larry Hickman has been serving as an alternate and has expressed interest to serve on the board. And so I would recommend that Larry be appointed the term that expires in 2017. The other opening that we have, which would expire in 2018, I'd recommend the new application of Bob Fenlon. And for our 2 alternates, Robert Allen for a term that would expire in 2015, and Bruce Oliver for a term that expires in 2016. So we would be using everyone that expressed interest in serving on this board. It's supposed to be a 2-year term. Those dates are wrong. They're 2-year terms. We read the code today, so we have to stagger those. So
do we
you
have
have one
need of-
come and do every year.
So do we have need of addressing these each individually?
I think you could do it as a whole group, this way we've done them before.
Okay.
So if I need to go over those terms again, I can.
I move we accept the recommendations from the city manager on appointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Second.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Gotts,
Yes. Next, we come to claims.
Move we pay the claims.
Second.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Gotts,
Yes. Next, we have council comments. Councilman Lesh?
I thought that we had a good walk back in time this year, that the Historical Society did a great job putting on that event, and it was certainly, I think the attendance was much larger than the year before, because I think the year before had some really bad weather involved in
Rained
it.
last year.
But also, I would like to say that we had the need of a couple officers out there, public safety officers, and I thought they did a real nice professional job dealing with some youngsters who had some issues, but I won't go into what they were doing, but I thought they did a real nice job with that, so.
Councilman Williams?
I'd like to echo, walk back in time. It was a great event. Brings a lot of people to Mexico. And it's amazing when you go from the outside looking in, because my parents came from Georgia this last weekend, and they were kind of like, wow, look at all the changes coming in off of 54 since they'd been here about a little over a year ago. And so I know people still complain, but you know what? The city of Mexico is doing pretty good, because there's a lot of cities that aren't growing at all. In fact, there's a lot of cities that are declining versus growing. So that's always a plus. I also had an interesting, I went to St. Charles for a wedding this weekend, and you'll have to help me, Chad, because I don't know. They asked me why we were at the wedding, they said, "You're from Mexico?" And I said, "Yeah." And we got to talking, and they found out I was a councilman, and they asked me why there's no Frisbee golf at Plunkett Park anymore. From St. Charles.
Yeah, that's surprising. Because the reason they don't know that is because the 9 holes at Plunkett was one of the first in the state. When we built the new 18 holes in Northeast, we told this golf club at that time that the 9 was going to have to go away, so we could put some other things in that space if we built them in the 18. So that's what.
Well, I just thought it was amazing. People all the way from St. Charles are like, I'm like, what?
Moved and grew.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, there's a lot more people that know our courses here and use it.
so that's all I have.
Councilman Miller.
Nothing other than to echo the comments that the other two councilmen made about the walk back in time. I think it's a great activity for our community, and I too feel like the city of Mexico has made quite a few changes, and all for the better, and I'm really proud of this community. Not all I have.
Okay. Bruce?
This last week, Goldcrest had their annual show, and they had, I think, 700 plus guests from 40, I heard 41, then I turned around and heard 45 states. Wow. And so there was a lot of people in the community last week, and new this year was that we had some folks helping with welcoming and directing traffic, and I think we even had a few folks in here, Susan and Chief Rocket, Rita Jackson was out there helping with them, a couple hours doing that, nuisance inspector, and the report back that I got from Mel from Goldcrest was that he extremely appreciated all the help, and even from talking with some of the folks that did attend, that they were pleasant. They said it was just very nice to have people from the community out there welcoming and driving them to the door and in the rain, and because Susan was out there during the rain driving a golf cart, taking people from their cars to the building and everything. But having those kinds of, that number in town and putting a very good face forward was good, and Mel really appreciated the effort that was done by the city, the chamber, the commissioners, everyone out there helping to welcome his guests and make it a good experience for him. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, I too want I want to thank all the volunteers for Walk Back in Time, because my goodness, it takes a ton of people to put that on. I had the privilege of working on Saturday on the grounds crew, and it was just, it's such a fun event. I believe, Bruce, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Dana said on Friday night they fed 150 more people than they did previously at the fish fry. They ran out, got more, and I mean, anyway, it was a wonderful, wonderful event, and takes lots of work, and kudos to all those who put it on. All right, next public comments. Anyone have a?
My name's Thomas Fiedler, and I'm from, live at 1617 Meadow Lane. And about a month, 2 months ago, I'd asked Mr. Slagle about the open carry issues, and he told me that nothing would be resolved until probably October. It's October. I told him I'd come back and ask about it again. And in that time also, there was a veto that was overwritten to make open carry legal, as I understand it. So I just wanted to see where the city was on that.
Bruce?
Yes, what we had talked about was that because of, you had a change that was approved by the legislature, it was vetoed, it was turned around, it was actually a public vote, I think, it was a referendum issue that was voted on. And so we were waiting to see what changes that may have had. The other issue that I talked to the Missouri League of Cities about in regards to how they felt this would change and they did not necessarily see it as any change based on what was actually approved. City attorney has kind of indicated the same thing, and so I think we're really in the same position we were before, is that council, if you wish to change it, we'll look at it, but otherwise, we're not going to address it, we're going to leave it as is. And that is really reference to open carrying of weapons and so on in the community. Now, and I want to be careful how I say that, because, I mean, there are circumstances where open carry is allowed. I mean, as long as it isn't loaded and those kinds of things. And I mean, if you're going to be carrying in and out of shops and so on, I think the issue is an open carry weapon loaded, ready for use is, I think this is the issue. Is it not, Lou?
There's a court decision by the Court of Appeals out of a case arising out of Cape Girardeau. We have words like capable of lethal use, etc. And it depends, frankly, on the availability of ammunition and how quickly the person carrying the weapon could have access to the ammunition. So if you had someone in the city limits with an open holster with a loaded gun, that would be a violation of the city ordinance. We don't think the amendment and the legislation has changed that. Now, if they were walking, had the weapon, did not have ammunition was in the car, that would be legal. The real problem you have is, how does an officer determine whether or not the weapon is capable of lethal use? And nobody has really given a firm guideline, which is honestly a very difficult situation. So at this point in time, we have the ordinance. Does not appear that the ordinance has been changed by any of the actions that have taken place. And you can post your premises, and then there are certain areas where you just can't use it. So that's the state of it. It puts the law enforcement officer in a very, very difficult situation. Also puts the citizen in a very difficult situation. It would be better, frankly, if we had a lot clearer standard by which to judge it. We just don't have it.
And this does not change the concealed carry issue at all?
No, it has not.
Just a point of clarification on that, from what I understand on the legislative-ish side of it, because the public vote didn't change anything, but the legislative side, where they overrode the governor's veto, actually specifically says that you can open carry. So I'd encourage you all to take a look into that, and I'll bring it next time there's a city council meeting, so we can have it in front of us with no clear, or nothing unclear on that, but I'm fairly certain that specifically stated that, because the point of it was to uniform it across the state, so that if I'm traveling through Mexico and I don't know that that's the law here, I can't get arrested for it. And that was the whole point of that. So it makes it so that anybody who has a concealed carry permit can legally open carry at the same time. So, thank you.
I don't know that used to be the law in Missouri, did it? Lou, that anybody on a peaceable journey throughout the state is not subject to being arrested. Has that changed?
No.
There you go. People who are on a peaceable journey through the state have nothing to fear. We can't arrest them.
Well, like I said, I'll bring a copy of it for next time, make it available to all you as well, so.
Okay.
So we're not recommending change, council.
Right. Anyone else? Seeing no one, we stand adjourned.
I move
wait,
we adjourn.
I've got,
Second.
I want to say something else. My wife said tonight, she said, I've never come and seen you preside, and I'm so glad she didn't. Do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
We have a motion and a second. Second.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Lesh.
Yes.
Bott.
Yes.